I'm Madison Taylor, 30 years old today. Standing in the Rosemont Estate Ballroom surrounded by Boston's financial elite, 50 millionaires raising champagne flutes in my honor. This should be my moment of triumph. Then my father, Richard Taylor, taps his glass. To my daughter, he announces, his voice carrying across the hushed room who's been nothing but a burden these 30 years. Stunned silence falls. My hands tremble, but I rise slowly from my seat, shoulders back, a determined fire in my eyes. Before I tell you how this nightmare birthday turned into the most powerful moment of my life, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever had to stand up to someone who tried to tear you down. Trust me, what happened next at this party will show you exactly why you should never let anyone dim your light. The Taylor name has commanded respect in Boston's financial district for 3 generations. Our family's investment firm manages billions, and our colonial mansion in Beacon Hill has hosted senators and CEOs. But behind those impeccable brick walls and polished mahogany doors, my childhood was anything but privileged. From my earliest memories, I knew I was secondary. My father's attention, pride, and resources flowed to my brother Brandon, 4 years my senior and the true heir to the Taylor legacy. While Brandon received private financial tutoring at age 12, I had to beg for books on business and economics. "Madison, darling, why bother yourself with these things?" my mother Charlotte would say, martini in hand by noon. "Your brother will handle the business matters." Charlotte, once a promising MBA graduate herself, had long ago surrendered to my father's domineering personality, finding refuge in designer clothes, charity committees, and increasingly alcohol. I can still see my father's dismissive wave when I brought home straight A's in advanced math. "That's nice, Madison. Did you know your brother just closed his first mock portfolio with a 15% return?" Despite this, I pushed harder. I joined investment clubs, won state economics competitions, and built my own stock portfolio from babysitting money. Each achievement was met with the same indifference, or worse, active discouragement. "You're embarrassing yourself with this business obsession," my father told me at 16 when I announced my plan to study finance. "Women don't have the natural instinct for high-level financial strategy." The sabotage began subtly. My applications to Wharton, Harvard, and Stanford mysteriously never arrived, despite my having personally handed them to my father to mail. When I confronted him, his response was cold. "Perhaps this is a sign you should consider something more suitable." I reapplied in secret, working with my high school counselor to ensure everything was submitted properly. When acceptance letters arrived, my father's congratulations came through clenched teeth. The summer before college brought my first taste of real betrayal. I'd secured a prestigious internship at Goldman Sachs only to arrive on my first day and discover my position had been canceled weeks earlier. The HR director seemed confused. "We received a call from your father explaining you had changed your mind." I spent that summer waitressing instead, saving every dollar for the expenses I knew my father would forget to cover. While Brandon interned at our family firm, I served coffee to businessmen who looked exactly like the woman I was determined to become. At Harvard, I thrived despite minimal financial support from home. I worked 2 jobs, maintained a 3.9 gigapascals, and built a network of mentors who, unlike my father, saw my potential. Upon graduation, I declined the obligatory offer to join Taylor Financial, instead accepting an entry-level position at a competitor. "Playing at business, are we?" my father remarked at my graduation dinner. "Call me when you're ready for a real career." Within 3 years, I had advanced from analyst to senior advisor, developing a reputation for innovative investment strategies and exceptional client relationships. Each promotion widened the rift with my family. Success, it seemed, was only valuable when it served the Taylor name directly. Little did I know that these early disappointments were merely preparation for the calculated betrayals to come. At 25, I took my biggest risk yet. With 5 years of experience and a growing client list who trusted my judgment, I resigned to launch Taylor Innovation Capital, deliberately using our family name to make a statement. My vision was clear: a forward-thinking firm that combined traditional investment wisdom with technological innovation and ethical practices. "You'll be bankrupt in a year," my father predicted over an uncomfortable family dinner. "The Taylor name is built on relationships you don't have access to." What Richard didn't anticipate was how many talented professionals were dissatisfied with old guard firms like his. Within months, I'd recruited a team of 15 exceptional people, including several who left Taylor Financial for opportunities with fewer golden handcuffs and more creative freedom. My brother Brandon personally called each defector, alternating between threats and bribes to return. None did. My approach was gaining traction. Our first-year projections were exceeded within 6 months, as clients, particularly younger tech entrepreneurs and women executives, responded to our fresh methodology. "Your sister's playing a dangerous game," I overheard my father tell Brandon during a holiday gathering. "We need to contain this before she damages our reputation." The first attack came through backdoor channels. A major client called to cancel our contract after hearing concerns about our firm's stability. 3 more cancellations followed that week. The pattern was too coordinated to be coincidence. Sophia Martinez, my operations director and Harvard classmate, infiltrated a country club lunch where my father was speaking. She recorded him casually mentioning unfortunate rumors about my daughter's struggling venture to a group of influential investors. No direct lies, just precisely planted seeds of doubt. Rather than fighting the whispering campaign, I channeled my energy into creating something undeniable. Working nights and weekends with Ryan Park, my brilliant data scientist, we developed an algorithm that could identify market inefficiencies with unprecedented accuracy. Our beta testing showed returns 4.2% above industry benchmarks, an astronomical advantage. Word spread. Gerald Winters, a technology millionaire known for his independent thinking, requested a meeting. After grilling me for 3 hours on every aspect of our methodology, he invested $10 million, our largest account yet. "I don't care about your last name," Gerald told me. "I care about results, and you've built something revolutionary here." The day after Gerald's investment went public, our office security system detected an unauthorized access attempt on our servers. The cyber attack was sophisticated, but unsuccessful thanks to Ryan's paranoid-level security measures. The IP addresses traced back to a proxy, but our team identified fragments of code used exclusively by Taylor Financial's IT department. They wanted our algorithm. I anticipated my father's next move. If he couldn't steal our technology, he would try to claim I had developed it while still employed at my previous firm, making it their intellectual property. I had meticulously documented my research timeline, filed provisional patents under my personal name before launching the company, and kept everything compartmentalized until legal protections were in place. When cease and desist letters arrived, we were prepared. Our counter-response included documented evidence of Taylor Financial's cyber attack attempts. The letters stopped immediately. 6 months later, our algorithmic trading platform secured a $50 million institutional investment. The press release included a photo of me shaking hands with the investment committee chair, my expression professionally neutral, while my eyes conveyed the message intended for my father. "This is just the beginning." The $50 million deal should have been a moment of pure celebration. Instead, it marked the beginning of an escalation I hadn't thought possible even from my father. A week after the announcement, Zoe Blackwell, my executive assistant and closest confidant, placed a USB drive on my desk with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of anger and pity. "You need to see this," she said simply. "My brother works in IT at Taylor Financial. He found these while upgrading their server security." The drive contained hundreds of emails between my father and brother spanning the past 2 years, a meticulously documented conspiracy to undermine everything I'd built. They'd created a dedicated task force within Taylor Financial, with the sole purpose of monitoring and counteracting my business moves. They had dossiers on my employees, clients, even my personal relationships. Most disturbing was the casual tone. This wasn't business competition. This was methodical destruction discussed over lunch meetings and golf games. Madison's getting too much positive press. Brandon, have Peterson at the Globe run that piece we discussed. The Chen account is considering her firm. Use your connection with Amanda's husband to poison that well. There were also references to my mother. Charlotte knows nothing about this. Keep it that way. She still has maternal delusions where Madison is concerned. I printed selected emails and confronted my mother at her weekly salon appointment, neutral territory where she couldn't escape. Her hands trembled as she read, smearing her fresh manicure. I suspected something, she whispered, tears forming. But not this. Coordinated. Madison, what are you going to do? Nothing yet. I needed to know if you were part of it. Her face crumpled. I've never been strong enough to stand against your father, but I've never helped him hurt you either. I believed her weakness, if not her innocence. Her silent complicity was its own form of betrayal, but at least she hadn't actively participated. The following week brought another shock. My cousin James Taylor, who ran business development at my father's firm but had always been friendly to me, requested a private meeting at a discreet bar across town. They're getting desperate, he said, nursing a scotch. Your success is making Richard look bad to the board. The old guard expected your company to fail spectacularly, proving his point about women in finance. And you're telling me this now because... James stared at his drink. They asked me to approach one of your programmers with a bribe for your source code. I did it, Madison. I'm not proud, but I did it. Who did you approach? I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. Ryan Park. He recorded the entire conversation and threatened to go to the FBI with evidence of corporate espionage. He's loyal to you. I'd already known about the attempt from Ryan, who had indeed recorded everything. What I needed was confirmation of my father's direct involvement, which James had just provided. The next day, my company's online reputation began suffering a coordinated attack. Negative reviews appeared on industry sites. Anonymous comments on financial forums questioned our methods and stability. A whisper campaign suggested we were under SEC investigation. Ryan traced the digital fingerprints. Most originated from devices within Taylor Financial's IP range. They're not even being careful anymore. We strengthened our defenses. I installed advanced security systems at both the office and my home after suspicious activity was reported by building security. We created contingency plans for every possible attack scenario. Our client contracts were amended to include explicit non-solicitation protections. Each defensive measure cost time and resources, distracting from our core business. That I realized was part of their strategy, force us to play defense until we exhausted ourselves. They're trying to break you, Zoe observed one night as we worked late. I looked up from my computer, suddenly aware of how tightly I'd been gripping my pen. They don't understand what they created. Every time I wanted to quit as a child, every dismissal and discouragement, it built something in me they can't begin to comprehend. What's that? She asked. A capacity for endurance they've never had to develop, I replied. They've always had power handed to them. They don't know how to fight from underneath. That night, I began documenting everything for potential legal action. Not just against my family, but a complete record of what it takes for a woman to succeed in a system designed for her failure. Whether I ultimately triumphed or lost everything, there would be a record of the true cost. While battling my family professionally, my personal life had become a refuge. Lucas Bennett, my boyfriend of 3 years, represented everything the Taylors were not: kind, supportive, and genuinely proud of my accomplishments. We'd met at a financial technology conference where his environmental investment firm was presenting. Our relationship had progressed naturally to the point where marriage seemed the obvious next step. Lucas proposed on a sailboat in Boston Harbor, the city skyline glittering behind us. "You're the most extraordinary person I've ever known," he said, sliding a vintage emerald ring onto my finger. "I want to build a life with you." For one blissful week, I allowed myself to focus on wedding plans and future dreams. Lucas suggested a family dinner to celebrate our engagement. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The evening started pleasantly enough at Maison Laurent, my father's favorite French restaurant. Charlotte seemed genuinely happy, complimenting my ring and asking about wedding locations. Even Brandon made an effort, bringing his wife Heather, who chatted amicably about bridal designers. Then, inevitably, business entered the conversation. Madison's company just secured the Westlake account Lucas mentioned proudly. They've been trying to land them for months. My father's champagne glass paused midway to his lips. Westlake Industrial, Thomas Westlake's company. The very same, Lucas confirmed, squeezing my hand under the table. "Interesting," my father mused. "Thomas and I were just discussing their portfolio restructuring last week. He never mentioned you were in the running, Madison." "Perhaps because it wasn't relevant to your conversation," I replied evenly. "Or perhaps because the decision isn't finalized," my father suggested with a thin smile. "Preliminary agreements fall through all the time." The chill that ran through me had nothing to do with the restaurant's aggressive air conditioning. How could my father know about the Westlake deal's preliminary status? We hadn't made any public announcements. Later that night, I couldn't shake my unease. While Lucas showered, his phone lit up with a text notification visible on our bedside table. "Did you confirm the Westlake situation? R. Richard, my father." When Lucas emerged from the bathroom, I was sitting motionless, his unlocked phone in my hand, scrolling through months of messages between him and my father. Regular updates on my business moves. Warnings about potential clients. Information about my strategy discussions that I'd shared in confidence. "What are you doing?" Lucas asked, his voice tight. "When did he recruit you?" I asked quietly. "Was it before or after we met? Was any of this real?" "Madison, you're overreacting. Your father and I occasionally discuss business. He's going to be my father-in-law." "These aren't casual conversations, Lucas. This is systematic espionage." "That's dramatic. I'm helping build bridges between you and your family. Richard just wants to protect you from making business mistakes. By sabotaging my clients. By undermining deals I've worked months to secure." Lucas sat beside me, attempting to take my hand. I pulled away. "You need to understand the Taylor legacy. Your father built something extraordinary. He knows this business better than anyone. And that justifies betraying my trust, spying on me. I never shared anything truly confidential, just helped smooth some rough edges." The realization hit me with stunning clarity. "You don't actually believe in me. You think I need to be managed just like they do. That's not fair. I love you. I propose to you." While reporting my every move to my father, I removed the emerald ring, placing it on the nightstand with a finality that echoed in the silence between us. "Get out. Madison, be reasonable." "Get out," I rarely shouted, but the force of my voice surprised us both. After Lucas left, I collapsed. 3 years of my life, countless intimate conversations, private fears and hopes shared, all potentially funneled back to Richard Taylor for analysis and exploitation. The violation was total. Sophia found me the next morning still in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by tissues and engagement photos I'd ripped to shreds. She canceled my meetings, ordered food I couldn't eat, and sat with me while I cycled between rage and devastating sadness. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered hoarsely. "They take everything. Every person, every achievement, every moment of happiness." "That's what they want you to believe," Sophia said firmly. "They want you broken." That same week, I discovered my mother had secretly mortgaged 3 family properties to fund Brandon's new venture after it failed to secure proper investor backing. Properties that were partially my inheritance, according to my grandfather's trust. Charlotte had technically acted legally by using her survivor's authority, but the ethical breach was staggering. The compounding betrayals took their toll. During a presentation to potential investors, I suffered an anxiety attack, my vision tunneling, breath coming in gasps. Ryan smoothly took over while Zoe escorted me to a private room. "I need a break," I admitted to my executive team the next day. "I can't think clearly anymore." "Take 2 weeks," Ryan suggested. "We'll hold the fort. But Madison, come back stronger. We believe in what we're building here." I retreated to a friend's vacant beach house in Maine. No phone, no email, no financial terminals, just ocean books and solitude. I slept for what felt like days, then began the slow process of rebuilding my psychological armor piece by piece. By day 10, clarity returned along with a cold, hard resolve. The Taylors had declared total war. Personal relationships, business connections, my reputation, even my emotional stability, all were considered legitimate targets. I had been fighting with one hand tied behind my back, constrained by familial loyalty and conventional ethics. Those constraints had now been incinerated by their actions. It was time to respond in kind. I returned to Boston, transformed both internally and externally. During my retreat, I'd cut my long brown hair into a sophisticated bob, replaced my conservative wardrobe with sharper, more authoritative pieces, and most importantly, shed any remaining illusions about reconciliation with my family. My team noticed the difference immediately. "Welcome back, boss," Zoe said, with an appreciative whistle. "Love the war general aesthetic." My first action was promoting Sophia to Chief Operations Officer. She'd more than proven herself during my absence, stabilizing client concerns and preventing any major defections. "We're playing defense when we should be attacking," I announced at our executive meeting. "That changes today." I outlined a 3-part strategy: strengthen our core business, expand our alliance network, and systematically neutralize the Taylor financial threat. We would operate with absolute integrity but unapologetic aggression. Through a mutual connection, I arranged a meeting with Amanda Reed, one of the few female financial powerhouses in Boston, who had consistently refused to work with my father. Her investment firm managed over $2 billion in assets. "Richard Taylor has been trying to get a meeting with me for 15 years, Amanda remarked, studying me over stylish reading glasses. "I've rejected him 15 times. "May I ask why?" I probed carefully. "Your grandfather and I were peers. A brilliant man who understood both money and people. Your father inherited only the former quality." She leaned forward. "Now tell me why you're really here." "You don't need a mentor, you need an ally." I laid out my situation with complete transparency, my family's systematic attempts to destroy me professionally, the personal betrayals, and my determination to succeed despite them. Amanda listened without interruption, then smiled. "You have something Richard never will: hunger. He inherited his position. You're fighting for yours." She removed her glasses. "I'm hosting a private investment forum next month. 40 of my closest financial associates will attend. You'll present your algorithmic platform as my special guest." That introduction proved invaluable. Within weeks, we'd secured 5 new high-net-worth clients and a strategic partnership with Nathan Barrett, a tech innovator whose cryptocurrency payment system complemented our investment platform perfectly. Meanwhile, I began weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Levine, a no-nonsense psychologist specializing in family trauma. "Your father's behavior isn't business," she observed. "It's pathological. He's trying to erase you because your success threatens his self-concept." Understanding the psychological underpinnings of my family's behavior was oddly freeing. This wasn't my failure, it was their pathology. I channeled this clarity into rebuilding my physical strength as well, working with a personal trainer who specialized in stress management through intensive exercise. The results of our new approach manifested quickly. Our client acquisition rate tripled. Our assets under management crossed the $500 million threshold. Industry publications began featuring our innovative methodology. Most satisfyingly, Taylor Financial started losing clients to us not because we targeted them, but because our results simply couldn't be ignored. Brandon made a desperate move, personally approaching our newest institutional client, Meridian Pension Fund, with documentation purporting to show instability in our returns. I had anticipated this exact scenario and had already provided Meridian with comprehensive transparency reports addressing potential criticisms. They not only stayed with us, but increased their investment. "Your brother seemed quite desperate," Meridian's director commented during our quarterly review. It reflected poorly on Taylor Financial. Our company valuation doubled, then doubled again. We expanded to new offices, our team growing to 50 exceptional professionals drawn by our results and culture. The Wall Street Journal ran a profile highlighting our disruptive approach to traditional wealth management, with my photo featured prominently. The morning the article published, I received an unexpected call from my father. "Madison," he began with unusual hesitancy. "Perhaps we've been approaching this situation incorrectly. There's room for both Taylor enterprises in the marketplace." I recognized the tactic immediately: the false reconciliation when direct attacks fail. "What exactly are you proposing, Richard?" I deliberately used his first name. "A family dinner, just to talk. We're still Taylors after all." "Being a Taylor means something very different to me than it does to you," I replied evenly. "But I appreciate the invitation. I'll check my calendar." I had no intention of attending. After hanging up, I smiled at the realization that for the first time my father was reacting to my moves rather than me to his. The power dynamic had shifted subtly but unmistakably. We weren't equals yet, but he could no longer dismiss me as inconsequential. The real war, however, was just beginning. Success had made us a target, but it also made us attractive to larger financial institutions. When Blackstone Global, a London-based investment giant, expressed interest in acquiring a significant stake in our company, the potential synergy was undeniable. Their global reach would exponentially expand our client base, while our algorithmic technology would enhance their traditional investment approach. After 3 months of intense negotiations, we finalized terms that preserved our operational independence while providing substantial capital for expansion. The contracts were prepared champagne-chilled, and a signing ceremony scheduled for the following morning with press in attendance. At 2:17 a.m., my phone exploded with alerts. Ryan's panicked voice cut through my groggy confusion. "The servers are down. All of them. Simultaneously." I rushed to our offices in pajamas and a hastily grabbed coat to find my technical team already assembled, their faces illuminated by emergency lighting as they worked frantically on laptops. "Someone executed a coordinated attack on all our systems," Ryan explained, fingers flying across his keyboard. "Primary servers wiped, backups corrupted. Even the physical backup drives in the secure storage are gone. Gone as in stolen. As in physically removed from the building sometime in the last 8 hours. Security cameras in that section were disabled." My blood ran cold. Our algorithm, the proprietary technology that gave us our competitive edge, was gone. Client data, trading histories, portfolio structures all vanished. Without this, we were just another boutique investment firm with ambitious claims and no proof to back them. "How is this possible?" I demanded. "Our security is state-of-the-art." Ryan looked up, his expression grim. "It's an inside job. The attack originated from credentials with executive-level clearance. We implemented emergency protocols, contacting cybersecurity experts, and launching recovery efforts. By morning, the situation was clear. Someone with intimate knowledge of our systems had executed a devastating attack designed specifically to cripple us on the eve of our biggest triumph." I postponed the Blackstone meeting, citing a technical issue requiring immediate attention. Their representative was professional but concerned. We need to resolve this within 72 hours, Miss Taylor, or we'll need to reassess our position. The subsequent investigation revealed the unthinkable. The attack had come from Michael Donovan, our chief financial officer, a Harvard classmate I'd personally recruited and considered a friend. Security footage showed him entering the server room at 11:42 p.m., leaving with several hard drives. When confronted by our security team at his apartment, Michael surrendered without resistance. "I'm sorry, Madison," was all he would say. The betrayal was professionally devastating and personally shattering. Michael had attended my birthday dinners. He'd helped me move apartments. He knew every detail of our business operations and client relationships. Phone records revealed regular calls between Michael and my father dating back 6 months. Financial traces showed $2 million transferred to an offshore account in Michael's name 3 days earlier. As news of our data breach spread, clients panicked. The Blackstone deal collapsed. Investors began withdrawing funds. Our stock price plummeted. Rumors circulated that we had fabricated our performance metrics, rumors I recognized as coming directly from Taylor Financial's playbook. In 72 hours, everything I'd built over 5 years teetered on the edge of destruction. My executive team looked to me for direction, but for the first time I had no clear path forward. That night, alone in my office with the lights off, I contemplated bankruptcy. Without our proprietary technology and with our reputation in tatters, recovery seemed impossible. I'd fought so hard for so long, but perhaps this was the knockout blow my father had been planning all along. As I sat in darkness contemplating surrender, my phone rang, my grandmother Eleanor's name illuminating the screen. My father's mother, now 87, had largely withdrawn from family affairs after my grandfather's death. We spoke perhaps twice a year. Madison, her voice was frail but determined. "I've been watching what's happening. It's time you knew the truth." "What truth, Grandma?" "About why Richard has always treated you differently." She paused. "Richard is not your biological father." The revelation hit like a physical blow. "What are you saying?" "Your mother and Richard were separated briefly before you were conceived." Charlotte had a relationship with James Harrington, Richard's former business partner. When she discovered she was pregnant, Richard took her back on the condition the truth would never be revealed. James Harrington, the name was familiar from family history. He and my grandfather had founded the original firm together, but James had left to start a competing company after a falling out with Richard. "Richard agreed to raise you as his own, but he's never been able to see past it," Eleanor continued. "Your success threatens him because deep down he fears you've inherited James's financial brilliance rather than the Taylor genes. It challenges everything he believes about himself." The pieces suddenly aligned: my father's lifelong resentment, his obsession with Brandon carrying on the true Taylor legacy, his pathological need to destroy my success. It wasn't just business rivalry, it was existential for him. "Does my mother know you're telling me this?" "Charlotte has spent 30 years pretending the past never happened, but you deserve to know why you've been fighting a battle you couldn't understand." After hanging up, I sat motionless, absorbing the seismic shift in my identity. The revelation should have devastated me further, but instead it brought strange clarity. The weight of seeking Richard Taylor's approval, a weight I hadn't even realized I still carried, suddenly lifted. I was not a failed Taylor. I had never been a Taylor at all. By morning I had a plan. I called an emergency meeting at 7 a.m., gathering my core team in our conference room. Their faces showed exhaustion and concern, but I felt an unusual calm. "Yesterday I considered giving up," I began honestly. "Today we fight back. I'm calling it Operation Phoenix." I outlined a 3-stage recovery plan: technology restoration, reputation rehabilitation, and strategic counteroffensive. Each executive would lead a specialized task force with clear objectives and timelines. Madison Sophia interrupted gently. "Our tech is gone. Even if we rebuild from scratch, it would take months. Clients need reassurance now. The tech isn't gone, Ryan said, a slight smile breaking through his fatigue. I've been trying to reach you all night. The attack was comprehensive, but they didn't know about Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol was our paranoid contingency plan, a secret backup system Ryan had insisted on implementing after the first cyber attack attempts. Critical components of our algorithm and data structure were stored on air-gapped computers in a location known only to Ryan and me. It's not current to the minute, Ryan cautioned, but we have about 95% of everything as of last week's backup. We can be operational within 48 hours. The room's energy transformed immediately. Zoe was already contacting clients with the update. Sophia began coordinating with our PR team to craft the narrative. Nathan Barrett offered his company's secure servers to house our restored systems temporarily. Most surprisingly, Amanda Reed called with an emergency loan offer. $500 million in liquidity available immediately. Use it to stabilize operations and reassure investors. Pay me back when you're on your feet. When I hesitated, she added, "This isn't charity, it's strategic self-interest. If Richard Taylor succeeds in destroying an innovative woman-led firm, it hurts everyone like us. Besides, I've seen your numbers. This is a sound investment." With immediate operational concerns addressed, we turned to Michael Donovan. Rather than pursuing criminal charges immediately, I authorized our legal team to offer limited immunity in exchange for full disclosure of Richard's involvement. "He approached me 6 months ago," Michael confessed in a recorded interview. "Just friendly drinks at first. Then subtle questions about our technology. When I resisted sharing details, the approach changed. They had photos of my sister's drug relapse information that would devastate her custody battle. Then came the carrot with the stick, $2 million, and my sister's problems would disappear." Michael surrendered text messages, recorded conversations, and details of multiple meetings with Richard and Brandon. The evidence was damning, showing clear intent to commit corporate espionage. Rather than using this immediately, we held it in reserve. Our priority was rebuilding, not revenge. With our technology restored, we implemented military-grade security protocols. Access to critical systems now required biometric authentication and physical security keys. We hired former FBI cybersecurity experts to test and fortify our defenses. The reputation battle required more finesse. Rather than directly addressing the rumors, we invited key clients to private demonstrations of our restored systems, providing unprecedented transparency into our methodology and performance metrics. Gerald Winters, our first major client, became our most vocal advocate. "I've seen behind the curtain," he told hesitant investors. "Madison Taylor's firm is the real deal. The attack against them proves they're threatening the status quo." Simultaneously, we strategically leaked information to trusted financial journalists about the suspicious timing of the cyber attack and its potential connection to our competitors. We never named Taylor Financial explicitly, but the implication was clear enough to trigger preliminary SEC inquiries. The investigation into potential securities fraud and corporate espionage made headlines in financial publications. While no charges had been filed, the mere existence of the investigation cast a shadow over Taylor Financial, particularly coming after their recent client losses. Within 3 weeks, we had stabilized. Within 6, we were growing again. Our Phoenix narrative, rising stronger from attempted destruction, resonated with clients who appreciated both our resilience and our innovative approach. Perhaps most satisfying was watching my father's company scramble to contain the damage. Their stock price dropped as questions about the investigation persisted. Several board members publicly expressed concerns about leadership decisions. For the first time, Richard Taylor was playing defense. The unexpected hero in our recovery was my mother. After learning about the cyber attack, Charlotte finally reached her breaking point. She provided our legal team with documents she'd secretly preserved, memos and emails from Richard, detailing his Madison containment strategy. Her evidence filled crucial gaps in our understanding of the conspiracy against me. "I should have done this years ago," she said when we met for coffee. She looked smaller, older, but somehow more present than she had in years. "I've filed for divorce. The lawyers say he'll fight it, but I don't care anymore." "Why now, after all this time?" I asked. "Because I finally realized he would never stop," she said simply. "And because you never did." By the 8-month mark, our company had fully recovered and was expanding into new markets. The SEC investigation into Taylor Financial had progressed to formal proceedings. Brandon had resigned to pursue other opportunities, a transparent attempt to distance himself from the growing scandal. As my 30th birthday approached, Sophia suggested we transform it into a dual celebration marking both my milestone birthday and our company's phoenix-like resurgence. I initially hesitated, the memory of family birthdays bringing little joy. But she was right. This was a moment worth commemorating on my terms with people who genuinely celebrated my success. We selected the historic Rosemont Estate for the venue, Boston's most prestigious location traditionally reserved for society's elite. The guest list included 50 of the financial world's most influential figures, all of whom had supported our recovery or expressed interest in our future growth. What I didn't anticipate was how the evening would become the final battlefield in the Taylor family war. The SEC investigation results became public 2 weeks before my birthday celebration, landing like a bombshell in Boston's financial community. The findings detailed systematic unethical practices at Taylor Financial, including documented attempts at corporate espionage against competitors. While stopping short of criminal charges, the regulatory body imposed substantial penalties and mandated leadership changes. The fallout was immediate and severe. Major institutional clients began withdrawing their accounts, unwilling to risk association with such practices. The company's stock plummeted 28% in a single day. Industry publications that had long celebrated Richard Taylor now questioned his judgment and ethics. Most significantly, 3 Taylor Financial board members called for my father's resignation. For the first time in the company's history, Richard's position as CEO was genuinely threatened. Meanwhile, our firm continued its dramatic ascent. Our client acquisition rate broke industry records. Our investment returns outperformed market benchmarks by substantial margins. Financial publications that had questioned our survival 6 months earlier now featured us as the model of next-generation wealth management. Brandon attempted to salvage his reputation by publicly distancing himself from the scandal. In an embarrassingly transparent interview with the Wall Street Journal, he claimed to have been unaware of improper activities and expressed deep concern about the ethical direction of his father's leadership. His former colleagues quickly contradicted this narrative, providing journalists with emails showing Brandon's active participation in the campaigns against our firm. His credibility collapsed, forcing him to withdraw from public view entirely. Perhaps the most surprising development came from my mother. After filing for divorce, Charlotte entered therapy and began the difficult process of reclaiming her identity. She sold her designer clothes to fund a scholarship for female business students and enrolled in courses to update her long-dormant MBA skills. When she asked to meet for lunch, I expected the usual passive regrets. Instead, she arrived with a portfolio of documents and a determined expression I barely recognized. "I've been reviewing the Taylor family trust structures," she began, spreading papers across the table. "There are vulnerabilities Richard never anticipated, particularly regarding the original founding shares from your grandfather's era." "What kind of vulnerabilities?" I asked, intrigued despite my caution. "If we can prove systematic breach of fiduciary duty by the current leadership, control reverts to secondary beneficiaries. That's you and Brandon equally, despite what Richard may have told you." She had already consulted specialized trust attorneys who confirmed her analysis. With the SEC findings as supporting evidence, we had a legitimate case for restructuring control of the family's founding investments, the backbone of Taylor Financial's power. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. "Because it should have been yours all along," she said simply, "and because he needs to understand he cannot destroy what he doesn't control." The legal challenge would take months to resolve, but merely filing the action sent shockwaves through the company's leadership. 3 more board members approached me privately, suggesting discussions about the future of the Taylor financial legacy. Meanwhile, preparations for my birthday celebration accelerated. The guest list grew more impressive as Amanda Chen used her influence to ensure attendance from key financial leaders. Nathan Barrett's technical team created a stunning visual presentation of our growth trajectory for the event. Sophia transformed the Rosemont estate into an elegant showcase of understated power. The unexpected emotional moment came when Lucas contacted me through a mutual friend, sending a handwritten apology letter acknowledging his betrayal and expressing genuine remorse. "I chose the wrong side of history," he wrote. "I'll regret that decision for the rest of my life. I appreciated the closure but felt nothing beyond that. The person I was when we were together, still seeking validation, still vulnerable to manipulation, no longer existed." The week before the event, Taylor Financial announced an emergency leadership change. My father was taking a temporary leave of absence for health reasons, while the board conducted a comprehensive review. Industry analysts recognized the euphemism for what it was. Richard Taylor was being pushed out of his own company. That evening, I received a desperate phone call from my father. His voice, usually commanding, sounded thin and strained. "Madison, this has gone too far. The board is using the current situation to orchestrate a takeover. They'll destroy everything your grandfather built." "That's an interesting perspective from someone who tried to destroy what I built," I replied evenly. "That was business. This is family legacy. You made it abundantly clear that I wasn't part of that legacy." "You're being emotional. We need to present a united Taylor front before the board meeting next week. I'm prepared to offer you a senior executive position if you'll support me." The desperation in his offer was almost pitiful. "I'm afraid I have a prior commitment," I said. "My birthday celebration. Perhaps you've heard about it. 50 of Boston's financial leaders will be there." The silence on his end spoke volumes. He understood exactly what such an event represented: a public coronation of my arrival among the power players he'd cultivated for decades. "Madison, be reasonable." "Goodbye, Richard. I wish you luck with the board." I ended the call. The final preparation for the celebration coincided with phenomenal news. Blackstone Global had returned with an improved offer for partnership, valuing our company at just over $1 billion. The announcement would be made public the day after my birthday, but select attendees at the celebration would receive advance notice. As I reviewed the guest list one final time, Zoe pointed out a detail I'd missed. My mother had requested permission to bring guests of her own. I'd approved without asking who. "Should I find out?" she asked. I considered it, then shook my head. "No. Whatever surprise she's planning, I think I'm finally ready for it." The night before the celebration, I stood at my apartment window overlooking Boston's financial district. The Taylor Financial Building stood illuminated against the night sky, a monument to old money and inherited privilege. Beside it, our newer, more modest offices glowed with equal intensity, built not on legacy but on innovation and resilience. Tomorrow would mark not just my 30th year, but the definitive end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Whatever happened at the Rosemont estate, I was prepared to face it on my terms. The Rosemont estate transformed under soft lighting and tasteful floral arrangements, its historic grandeur providing the perfect backdrop for my dual celebration. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished marble floors. String musicians played in the garden pavilion. Waitstaff circulated with champagne and artfully presented hors d'oeuvres. I chose my attire carefully, a tailored midnight blue suit rather than a traditional cocktail dress, projecting confidence rather than seeking attention. My newly bobbed hair was swept back elegantly, and I wore my grandmother's sapphire earrings, a gift on my 16th birthday that Richard had dismissed as wasting good jewelry. By 7 o'clock, the estate buzzed with Boston's financial elite. Amanda Chen arrived early, commanding attention in a striking red ensemble. Quite the gathering, she noted with approval. Half the people here turned down Richard's last charity gala. Nathan Barrett brought his entire executive team. Gerald Winters introduced me to 3 potential investors. Even competitors attended, curious about the firm that had survived what should have been a fatal attack. At 7:30, the unexpected occurred. Charlotte arrived with 2 guests, my father and brother. They entered hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable yet determined. My mother approached me first, elegant in a simple black dress. "I hope you don't mind," she said quietly. "They requested to come. I thought you should have the choice to accept or refuse them." I studied Richard and Brandon standing awkwardly by the entrance. My father had aged visibly in recent months, his confidence eroded by public humiliation. Brandon looked simply lost his identity as the favored heir, now meaningless. They can stay, I decided. It's fitting they witness this. The evening progressed with dinner and conversation. I moved from table to table, connecting with guests and building relationships. My team shined in their respective areas of expertise. The atmosphere was one of celebration, tinged with anticipation, everyone sensing this marked a significant power shift in Boston's financial landscape. At 9:00, Sophia clinked her glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've gathered to celebrate not only Madison Taylor's 30th birthday, but also the extraordinary success of Taylor Innovation Capital." She introduced Amanda Chen, who spoke briefly about the future of finance and her confidence in my leadership. Nathan Barrett followed with remarks about our technological innovations. Each speech built upon the last, creating a narrative of accomplishment and potential. Finally, Sophia turned to me. "Madison, would you like to address your guests?" As I rose, Richard stepped forward unexpectedly. "If I might," he interjected, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "As Madison's father, I believe it's tradition for me to offer the first toast." The boldness was so characteristic of him, assuming privilege, commanding attention. Sophia looked to me questioningly. I nodded, slightly curious what desperate play he might attempt. Richard moved to the center of the room, champagne glass raised. For a moment, I glimpsed the charismatic leader who had dominated Boston finance for decades. 30 years ago today, he began, his voice steady. Despite the tension evident in his posture, the Taylor family welcomed its newest member. Madison has always been determined. A thin smile accompanied the calculated pause, determined to chart her own course regardless of family tradition or guidance. He surveyed the room, making eye contact with several longtime business associates. Many of you have watched her recent rise with interest, perhaps even amusement. A daughter challenging her father makes for entertaining financial gossip, doesn't it? The room remained uncomfortably silent. Richard continued, his voice hardening. "What you're witnessing isn't triumph, it's opportunism built on stolen family methodology and connections. So yes, let's toast to Madison, to my daughter who's been nothing but a burden these 30 years. The words hung in the air, shocking in their naked hostility. Glasses froze midway to lips. Several guests exchanged alarmed glances. Charlotte closed her eyes, briefly pain evident on her face. I rose slowly, my heart pounding, but my expression composed. The silence was complete as every eye turned to me. This was the moment Richard had orchestrated my public humiliation at what should have been my crowning achievement. "Thank you, Richard, for that illuminating perspective," I began, my voice clear and controlled. "It's rare to have one's family dynamics so transparently displayed for colleagues and friends." I moved to stand beside him, neither retreating nor attacking. For those wondering, yes, that sentiment has been consistent throughout my life. The first investment portfolio I built at 16 was dismissed as playing with money. My Harvard acceptance was lucky timing. My first $1 million client was beginner's luck. I smiled, genuinely surprising myself with the absence of anger. But tonight isn't about the past. It's about what we've built at Taylor Innovation Capital despite extraordinary opposition. I addressed the room directly. Many of you have asked how we recovered from last year's devastating cyber attack. The truth is simple: we anticipated it. When you've spent a lifetime being underestimated and sabotaged, you develop resilience. You build redundancies. You trust selectively but verify constantly. Richard attempted to interject, but I continued smoothly. The financial world is changing. The future belongs not to those who inherit power, but to those who earn it through innovation, ethical practice, and adaptability. I raised my glass. So I toast all of you who believed in our vision when others predicted our failure. And I offer special thanks to Richard Taylor. I turned to face him directly, whose consistent underestimation created the strongest possible foundation for my success. Nothing builds character like having to earn every single opportunity, achievement, and relationship. The tension broke as Amanda Chen began applauding, followed quickly by others until the entire room joined in. Richard's face flushed with anger and embarrassment as he realized his attack had backfired completely. And now, I continued once the applause subsided, I'm pleased to share some news. Tomorrow morning, we'll announce a strategic partnership with Blackstone Global that values Taylor Innovation Capital at just over $1 billion. Murmurs of appreciation spread through the crowd. Financial professionals understood immediately the significance of reaching unicorn status so quickly. Additionally, we've secured exclusive rights to implement our algorithmic trading platform across their 17 global offices. This represents not just a validation of our approach, but an opportunity to transform investment management on an international scale. The announcement generated exactly the response I'd hoped for: excited conversations, congratulatory nods, and several competitors looking distinctly concerned about the competitive implications. Richard stood frozen, the magnitude of his failure evident. His attempt to diminish me had instead provided the perfect contrast to highlight my success. Brandon slipped quietly toward the exit, unwilling to witness more of the family's public implosion. What happened next surprised everyone, including me. Charlotte stepped forward, champagne glass in hand. "If I might add something," she said, her voice stronger than I'd heard in years. "As Madison's mother, I've watched her fight for recognition her entire life. I remained silent when I should have spoken. I accepted limitations I should have challenged." She turned to face me directly. "I cannot undo those choices, but I can make a different one today." She moved to stand beside me, physically separating herself from Richard. "I'm incredibly proud of what you've built, Madison. Not just a successful company, but a life of integrity and purpose." The gesture, public, irrevocable, and decades overdue, moved me more than I could have anticipated. I took her hand, squeezing it gently in acknowledgement. Richard, now isolated and diminished, attempted one last desperate salvage of dignity. "This family discussion should happen privately, not as entertainment for business associates." "There is no private discussion left to have," I replied evenly. "You made your position clear for 30 years, most recently in your toast. I've made mine clear through my work. The audience is simply witnessing the natural conclusion." He departed without another word, shoulders rigid with fury and humiliation. The remaining guests quickly resumed their celebrations, the dramatic exit already becoming the evening's most discussed moment. As the party continued around us, Charlotte whispered, "He'll never forgive either of us." "I know," I replied. And for the first time in my life, that doesn't matter at all. The remainder of the evening unfolded in an atmosphere of genuine celebration. Potential partnerships were discussed, connections strengthened, and future possibilities explored. When Amanda Chen raised her glass in a final toast, her words captured perfectly what everyone was thinking: to Madison Taylor, never a burden, always a force of nature. Later, as the last guest departed, I stood alone on the Rosemont Estate terrace, overlooking the gardens. The path forward was clearer than it had ever been, not defined by family legacy or unresolvable conflict, but by the company I'd built and the future it could create. The burden Richard had claimed I represented had never been mine to carry. It had always been his limitation, his fear, his inability to recognize that success comes in forms he couldn't control or claim credit for. Now, standing at the threshold of a new decade, I felt something unexpected, not just pride in victory or relief from struggle, but genuine freedom. Freedom from seeking approval that would never come. Freedom from the shadow of a family name I'd both embraced and fought against. The Taylor legacy would continue, just not as Richard had envisioned it. Has your family ever tried to hold you back from your dreams? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who was supposed to support you? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over adversity, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the people who should believe in you the most are the ones you need to prove wrong. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember, your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it. It's defined by your courage to believe in yourself when no one else will.